We start in with the introductions. I'm Sue McClintock. I'm the director at Carver Memorial Library here in Searsport, and we're happy to present this program in collaboration with Friends of Sears Island. It's always nice to have features of local things and local people, and we can appreciate where we live. We've got lots of programs and events planned for this summer, so try checking us out on social media or on our website. We hope you can join us for that. And we're very much looking forward to this. This will be recorded, so you'll be able to catch it on Friends of Sears Island's YouTube channel later. And we will only be recording the speaker, so don't worry about your video. And we will also mute people's sound so that we have a clean recording. And we'll take questions in the chat, and Ashley will be keeping track of that and make sure we get those to our presenter. So do feel free to type in if you have some questions.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley McGuire, and I'm the outreach coordinator for Friends of Sears Island here in Searsport. And just a quick little bit about our group, and then we'll turn it over to Donnie. Our group is the land manager for the 600-acre conservation easement area on Sears Island, and we maintain accessibility to the public to the island. And that includes like trails and access to the beaches and that sort of thing. And then we also have a lot of educational programs that we offer to the public. If you want to learn more about our group, you can check out our Facebook page or our website. And if you're interested in becoming a member, we always love having more people join us. So as many of you already know, Sears Island is a fantastic place to bird watch and look for spring wildflowers and other wildlife. And just observe a lot of inspiring signs of spring. One of the things that's so wonderful about visiting the island, I think, is that you can explore a whole bunch of different habitats kind of in close proximity to one another. So tonight, whether you go explore, at Sears Island or in your backyard or somewhere else, hopefully you'll feel inspired to get out there and just see what's going on, because tonight Donnie's going to give us an overview of what's happening in nature right now, kind of like for the next month or so in May and June, when it's a busy time and there's lots to check out. So Donnie is a Maine master naturalist and amateur photographer living in Orrington, and she's learned a lot through her camera and is going to share some of her shots that she's taken tonight and things that she's sort of discovered and learned along the way. So thank you, Donnie, for taking time to be here with us tonight, and I'll let you get started.
Pleasure. Thanks to everybody for joining here. Let's get this screen shared and get the photos going. There we go. All right. Spring sights and scraps. So there's, let's see. Oh, I want to get let me get the annotation tool so that oops. There we go. Working kind of funky here, so thanks for bearing with me here. Can you see that toolbar? No. Okay. All right. Okay. So one more thing. Maybe if I stop the video, that will cause less problems. Well, I guess we'll keep the video going. Okay, so again, thanks for joining here for Spring Sights and Scraps. There's so much going on this time of year, and I'm excited to share some of the many photographs that I have with you. It was hard to decide which ones to share because there is so much going on. But as I go through them, um, I did put up scientific names, binomials. So they're included in the slides along with the common names, and I'll fill in with some scraps about the sites as well. So we'll start off with a few mammals and then look at a couple of trees and a few shrubs, lots of wildflowers, some amphibians, insects, spiders, and birds. And we'll talk about what they're doing this time of year. And again, like Sue said, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Hopefully you guys are monitoring the chat because I feel like I have my hands full. So thank you. All right. So one spring day, I was working out in the yard and felt someone watching me. And there's a big black locust tree is surrounded by this raccoon you can see in our front yard. And there's a good sized cavity that's been used by a raccoon before. And I'd seen eye shine in that area the previous night when I took my dog Drifter out. Raccoons are active at night, but this was one of the few times that I've seen one during the day. So this time of year, it's happened to me before on my way to work, that you might catch a mother raccoon herding her young across the road at, and sometimes they have, 5 or 6 or 7. So back in 2016, these 2 young raccoons were abandoned by their mother. And one of the babies, it looked like one of the babies was sick. And the only thing I could think of afterward was that maybe the sibling had stayed back with the sick baby. I waited a few days to make sure they were abandoned, and found a sanctuary in Augusta that would take the raccoons. The raccoons carry a bad parasite.
Smells nice too.
No, but that's good.
Somebody needs to mute. Melissa, I think. Anyway, so raccoons carry a bad parasite in their feces that are problematic to these sanctuaries and wildlife rehab centers. And so they won't take the raccoons. But I did find one place, and I met someone in Newport who took them, and the one that was sick did have an eye infection, but they were able to heal that baby and both of them, and they did end up releasing them into the wild after they raised them. So it turned out good. But that is one thing that Department of Wildlife says that you shouldn't do, is that you should definitely allow some time when if you see a baby, to be sure and allow enough time to know that it has been abandoned. Oftentimes mothers will leave them, but then come back for them. So. Okay, so here's just a couple of other things about raccoon. On the right top is a track in the mud near a stream. That's the right front paw, and then the bottom left is a latrine that was actually left by the raccoon that used the cavity for quite a while. That same cavity in the black locust tree. So they do they deposit their feces in one area, a latrine, and it looks like this. It's kind of hard to tell the size, but I guess maybe the oak leaf can give you a good scale of how big it was. So most are familiar with the North American red squirrel. These are native to North America. I always, for some reason, thought that they were not, but they are. They're very territorial and let you know when you are out hiking that you're invading their territory, their home. And they do this with loud chittering noises and rants that was what this one was doing at the time I took this shot. So in early spring, red squirrels have this broad, rusty colored band that runs down their back, and it's quite vibrant. But I noticed that the red squirrels that come to my feeder were losing their fur, and there was a darker coat underneath. So I looked it up, and sure enough, red squirrels molt twice a year. They molt in the spring and in the fall. And they do have that broad rusty band that they lose that for the summer and have more of a drab olive color coat. Red squirrels are grainivores. They feed on seed, mostly those found in cones of spruce trees. And you may have noticed red squirrel middens, which are what I think I've seen them actually out on Sears Island hiking. It's where they leave their pilings of the cones that they tear apart and to get the seed inside. They usually have 1 to 3 middens per territory, and middens as wide as 3 feet wide have been seen. Red squirrels also eat buds, tree buds, and tree catkins and mushrooms. So this year, this spring, my friend Anna and I were out hiking, and we disrupted this porcupine's travel. This is another mammal that's young or learning to be independent at this time, like the raccoon. So this is a video, I'll play that. This is a young porcupine. Can you guys hear the audio from the video? Just curious. Sue, no? Okay.
I couldn't really hear it either.
Okay. So I was photographing wildflowers, and I woke this young porcupine up. It was sleeping underneath a tree. Trying not to say but it's coming out left and right, sorry. So the porcupine, I woke it up, I went away for about an hour, went on a hike, and then came back. And it was here feeding on some, as you can see, some shrubby trees. The bugs were bothersome that day, so he was wiping them away from his eyes. These many trees spread their pollen by wind, and they flower early to take advantage of a time when the deciduous trees are leafless. Birches are my favorite deciduous tree. This one is a white paper birch. On the left is a photo of the male and female flowers. The longer male catkin produces pollen that is spread by the wind to be received by the smaller catkin. And I'm still not getting that annotation tool, so unfortunately. The female flower, after receiving pollen, will produce another catkin of sorts that contains a row of seedlings that are dispersed by the wind. Often in the winter, I'll see them on top of the snow after a windy winter day. Hobblebush is the native shrub found in woods and along wood edges. It's called moosebush. It's one of its common names. It grows in a sprawling, wide fashion to 10 feet or more. The branches often extend outward and root, forming clonal offspring, or what's called ramets. The flowers are large because they they rely on insects for pollination. And they probably evolved to a bigger size to attract pollinators into its shady habitat. They also have a faint odor, which probably helps to attract them as well. Some known pollinators are bees, wasps, flies, butterflies, and moths, and beetles. Ruby-throated hummingbirds and the hummingbird clearwing moth visit hobblebush flowers too. Another native in the, here we go with the Latin terms, Miraceae or bayberry family, is sweet fern. Like bayberry, which I've noticed on Sears Island, there's a big bayberry bush there. Sweet fern has a wonderful scent. It's a deciduous shrub, not a true fern as the common name suggests. It's about 2 to 4 feet tall and grows in open fields with sandy soil in dense colonies. This is the male flower catkin that you see this time of year before the leaves unfurl. The brown leaves in this photo are actually leaves from last season. It makes for a beautiful picture, I think. So this is after the leaves have come out, which is in June still. It's still in the photographs were found between the latter part of May and the month of June, all of these photographs. Some of them, if they were found later, I'll tell you that the date that they were found. I wanted to show berries in one of the images. And then this is a burr that grows from the sweet fern. It's like a fruit that grows from the sweet fern. All right. So black huckleberry. It's a deciduous shrub in the heath family, Ericaceae, that can grow to 6 feet. It grows with blueberry in woods and thickets. You may have seen the berries that are black, which is the photo in the bottom right. It was taken on September 4th. So they're black and they're edible too, spicy but seedy. Okay, wild sarsaparilla. It's a common herbaceous plant found in the woods that grows about 12 to 24 inches tall. The compound leaves have 3 to 7 leaflets. They're red when they first branch up in spring, like the top left, and then turn green. The photo in the bottom right was within the same time frame, it was later in June. So the leaves were still kind of reddish, but you can see that they are more green than the leaves in the upper left photo. The tiny white flowers are in a globe-shaped cluster, as you can see, about the same height as the leaflets, where purple-black berries develop. This plant is in decline due to habitat loss. So I was pleased to see it one day next to the road while I was on a run. It grows in shallow water from 5 to 12 inches tall. The green part that you see here is the spadix, the bumpy green part in the middle of the white area. The white area is called the spathe. And I was so intent on getting the spadix and the spathe that I didn't get a shot of the big, beautiful heart-shaped leaves, which are about 4 inches long. The flowers are small and insignificant on the spadix. And I'm actually going to stop sharing so that I can, I want to show you, not sharing, but you see these white, these are the flowers here. And They're very small and insignificant. All right, so while I'm here, let me grab the
We missed these right here.
mouse. Okay.
She's down here.
For some reason that mouse is not showing up. Okay, so this is a very familiar sight to most of us. They're bluets. They're low-growing flowers and they spread in clumps. They form white carpets over the ground. Even before you mow your lawn, oftentimes bluets will take over a good area of the lawn. But they're beautiful from afar, but you're missing out if you don't get up close because they're just absolutely gorgeous, I think. And this is painted trillium. And in this particular photo, you can see the flower parts really well. And see again, I'm going to bring it down and just show you that. The sepals, these are the sepals here, these three. And in trilliums, of course, everything comes in threes. These are the white petals, of course. The stamens are here. These. And the pistils are here. And this is the ovary. So good photo to point that out with. All right. More beautiful wildflowers. These are spring ephemerals that are found in acidic woodlands. They don't last long, but are usually blooming the first week in June. These flowers have a mutualistic, the lady slipper actually, not the polygala or gay wings. The lady slippers have a mutualistic relationship with a fungus in the soil in the genus Rhizoctonia. The fungus provides the seed, which don't hold a lot of nutrition with them. And so they basically care for the plant's seeds and so that they'll germinate. So it's very important to know that if you dig up a lady slipper in an acidic woodland, you're basically separating it from what could potentially help the flower to grow down the road. I know some people have done it successfully, but I think the majority of the time it's unsuccessful. All right, this is bunchberry. Beautiful it's in the dogwood family. And starflower is blooming profusely right now in a wood right near my home. There's lots of them all opened up. Rhodora, which is actually more of a shrub, but it's just such a beautiful wildflower and had to include it here. Blue flag in an iris. Jack in the pulpit. These are in bloom right now. Saw one this morning. Jack in the pulpit also have a spadix. So if you open the top flap, the spadix appears. All right, so now we're into some amphibians. This photo was taken on June 11th, but I don't see a lot of frogs early in the year. Most of the frog photographs that I have, they were taken later in the season. Frogs are poikilotherms. They don't move around. They go into a diapause when it's cold. They don't move around for resources until it warms up. Adult green frogs are common in wetlands of Maine, and you may be hearing their banjo-like galunks at a pond already. The dorsolateral ridges distinguish it from the bullfrog. Those are, again, those are these right here. Those are the dorsolateral ridges. So they distinguish it from a bullfrog. They're smaller than bullfrogs, but the immature stages of bullfrogs can look similar to a green frog. They eat invertebrates like insects and spiders, and also smaller frogs and small fish. And they're preyed upon by larger frogs, wading birds, and turtles. This time of year, especially on cooler days, you'll see them basking in the sun, like turtles too, painted turtles. You'll see a lot of those basking in the sun. And snakes, garter snakes, seek out a sunny spot to warm themselves up. Okay, so what I did here is listed the species of amphibians that you'll see here in Maine. And I've noted a website that has some really great frog calls. We can actually select the link and see if we can hear a few. I'll go ahead and mention the names of the frogs that are here clockwise. We've got the wood frog, the spring peeper, the American toad, pickerel frog, and this is the northern leopard frog. Oh, just between these two, sometimes the northern leopard frog, the immature stages are a brownish color like the pickerel frog. The pickerel frog has more angular spots, and then as you know, more than than the northern leopard. So if you happen to see a brown frog that has round spots, it's probably an immature northern leopard. And then in this top left is the bullfrog. Let's see if we can hear some noises. All right, so one of the ones that people ask me, what kind of bird is that? It's the gray tree frog. So I'm gonna, now I don't know if you guys can hear this or not. I'll try to play it loud. Did anybody hear that? Sue, can you hear that?
Right at the beginning, and then now it's quiet.
The same for me.
Okay, well, we tried. All right. We got a couple of chats here.
Yeah, Donnie, it looks like someone's just asking if you have your computer on full volume on your computer.
Okay. Can you hear me okay now? Like a phone commercial.
I know. I can hear you fine. It just
Okay.
seems to be when you try to play an audio clip, like the video went just fine, but the audio didn't seem to play along with it. So I don't know,
Okay.
but maybe people
Okay.
can just check out that link afterward and write it down, or we could maybe bring that slide back up at the end so people could check it out afterwards. We can't get it to play.
That sounds like a great idea. So this is a great site, you guys. It's got all of the calls for all of the main species, so that you can distinguish them if you're interested. It's also a citizen science project, and you can take part in that if you'd like. Okay, also wanted to include these photos of from a vernal pool in Bangor. They're full of activity this time of year. Lots of eggs were laid earlier and the eggs are developing. The top left photo is of the blue spotted salamander, and you can actually see the small salamanders in the egg sac still. In the bottom are not as developed as the top. The blue spotted salamander eggs are described as drippy, which they were very drippy. And then in the right photo are very small specks. Hopefully you can tell that they have tails. Those are tadpoles of a wood frog. So look for these things while you're out on Sears Island, because they have a great vernal pool there. Or there is a great vernal pool there. All right, so insects. Insects are getting to be some of my most favorite things. Never ever thought I would say that, but so insects are poikilotherms too. When it's cold, they're in diapause. But now we're seeing some consistently warm days and they are on the move. This is a click beetle. It's in the family Elateridae. It's on a crozier or a fiddlehead, depending on what you want to call it, of a fern. The click beetles are unique because unlike the ones that you see on the back with their legs moving around, they can right themselves if they happen to fall on their back. They arch their thorax area and then snap it back, creating the audible click sound that they're named for. So generally, insects are in decline in the continent of Europe, and many species on this continent are threatened or endangered due to habitat loss from development, and also insecticides sprayed on our agricultural fields. So about a third of the food that we eat exists due to insects, and they're important to us in many other ways. So we need to be careful and keep them around. Oh, so this moth, it's in the family Tortricidae, which are mostly leaf rollers in their younger stage of life. The larvae roll up a leaf, often securing the roll with silk. They use it for protection and venture out to feed on foliage of flowers. A few of its hosts are listed as apple, Solomon's seal, and trillium. So those are early spring hosts and make sense. This one was in the grass on June 4th. It was pretty small, as you can see from it relative to the blade of grass, the size of it, just under a ½ an inch, I'd say. And that's with its wings at rest. And I included this shot of a leaf roller example, just so that you can see. I'm not sure the species that created it, but you can see some of the silk that is tying the leaf parts together. I just love this moth. It's so beautiful. It's got a great outfit on, I think. The fringe around the outside edge of the wings. And anyway, it's the white spring moth. It's quite small, but it sure is a beauty. Beetles. These guys have really interesting antennae. They're all different variations. This one happens to be a lamellate antennae. And this beetle, it rested on a leaf and then took off flying shortly after this photo was taken. Beetles are heavy due to the protective elytra, that is their outer wings. And they've evolved these wings this way. They're quite successful, and it's those heavier wings give them a lot of protection. This one flew lower to the ground, and so with those heavy elytra, they fly clunkier, I would say is a good descriptive word. This one flew lower to the ground when it took off, and it wasn't as sleek in flight as, say, a bee or a fly might be. So just interesting things to look for when you're out and watching insects. I have to say that this winter I read the most interest. This book is great. It talks about the bombardier beetle, which has evolved a really cool way to defend itself. They have at their rear, they can spray a chemical and they can aim it to wherever their enemy is coming from. They spray this defense, and the chemical is not a good one, and so attackers learn to avoid this particular beetle. There's a lot more about the bombardier beetles and others in this book, For Love of Insects, and I just enjoyed it so much that I thought I'd share. Later in June, you'll see a wider variety of butterflies than are out there right now. This is the eyed brown, and this was taken in late June. A couple of butterflies that you might have seen already are still around. There's spring azures or eastern tail blues. I didn't have time to look into which is which in these photos, but I often see these small butterflies that bear patches of ground in early spring. They take in nutrients from the soil there. I read that dorsal basking is more common in the blues, meaning when the leaves are down, they let their leaves down when they're at rest. The azures, when they're at rest, their leaves will be up like you see in the left and the bottom right. The top right, I think the only reason why those wings were down is because it was in flight. With the eastern blues, you can actually distinguish male and female. Male are blue in the dorsal wing area and females are gray. This is the scorpion fly. They have so back here in the abdomen, they have a scorpion-like abdomen that curls up. That gives it its common name. Look at that beak. Love that. All right. And this is a sawfly. Not sure exactly the genus or species. So if I don't know the name of, if I couldn't find the name of the genus and species, I put the family name, which is Tinthretinid, the Tinthretinid. So, and many insects are multivoltine, meaning that they'll have several broads in a season, in a spring, summer, fall, period. This is the 14 spotted lady beetle, a couple mating. And this is the modest sphinx moth mating. These are quite large moths. This was a really great find. Had to laugh that they're called the modest sphinx moth when it was right there on the tree next to the trail. And then this is a cuckoo wasp. I happen to guess at this genus and species, but the coloration of these cuckoo wasps, they're very vibrant and beautiful. They're quite small pollinators, as you can see, which are helpful in the scheme of things. They're allowing the plants to crossbreed. This is another cuckoo wasp that I didn't get the genus species, but I just love the color and the big black eyes. This was a great meeting. It's just beautiful. Okay, so a few birds. I'm not a huge birder, but I do enjoy them. I love hearing them, and I love seeing them and able to capture photographs of them, but I just am not quick enough. They're flittering about, and usually they're behind a branch. But you may be familiar with the species if you're a birder. This is a yellow rumped warbler.
Off.
It's gotta be on off. Volume.
The yellow rumped warbler, and this one's a male. And you'll notice that the bird is puffed up. Birds do this for a few reasons. They actually use it as a communication method to other birds, to keep warm during cold temps, or to prepare themselves for sleep. And here in Maine, I see it a lot on cold days. When puffed out like this, the feathers trap air inside, which becomes an insulating layer between the skin and the feathers. All right, this was kind of a cool find as well. And it was weird because just last week I was driving home from the veterinarian with my dog Drifter, and turkey vulture flew low to the ground, which usually when I think of a turkey vulture, I think of them flying high in the sky, around in circles over something that is dead, you know, because they're scavengers. But this past week, it was low, and I got a really good look at the size and the red head. It's just so unique, and they're a really cool bird. But seeing them up above so often, I always thought that they must nest in trees, but they actually nest on the ground. They nest in hollow logs and crevices. This summer night, they were sitting on fence posts at Hancock Pond on Route 46. And they were really it looked like they were ma and pa turkey vulture, enjoying the summer evening, watching, everything play out at Hancock Pond. I was lucky to be at the right place at the right time. Tree swallows are handsome birds that are great fun to watch this time of year. They're found in open areas and especially like buggy spots near water. They often use nest boxes that people erect for bluebirds, but I've never heard anyone say that they minded that swallows nested there instead. They stay busy catching insects for their hatchlings. Seeing and hearing a chipping sparrow always helps me to feel a little chipper myself. but I don't think that's how they got their common name. What do you think? Okay. This is one of the first photos that I looked for when Ashley asked me to do this presentation. So I was hoping that it was shot in the right time frame, and it was taken on June 4th. So it met the condition. Spiders aren't very popular. Many people are afraid of them. I used to be afraid of them, but then studied them for a project and ended up liking them a lot. I now let them crawl on me while I observe them, which a lot of people would shudder at, but they're not harmful. They're fascinating. They do some of the most fascinating things. There are jumping spiders, there are ballooning spiders, there are web building spiders. This particular one makes one of those beautiful orb webs that you read about in Charlotte's Web when you were a kid. It caught an insect in its web. That's the dark area at the bottom of the photo. And it was attending to its dinner. The large area at the top is actually the abdomen, the spider's abdomen, so that the silk actually would come from the spider at the top of the photograph. I'm gonna get my pointer again. So its eyes are down here. This particular spider has 8 eyes. You can see 6 clearly. And then these 2 small appendages here are pedipalps, which are mouth parts actually. They're helping the spider to fix dinner. And then the hairs, these setae, they're called, or setae, depending, I've heard it pronounced a couple of ways. Those are sensory mechanisms that they're not there to creep you out. That's what everybody says, a little hairy and creepy, but they rely on these setae for information, not only about the environment as far as humidity and temperature, but also vibrations. Say it again. This is another orb weaver. It's a small one. This particular species is it's between 4 and 7 millimeters, which is roughly 1/4 of an inch. As you can see the tip of the leaf, you can see the silk as well. It was building a web, an orb web. And if you have the time, it's really a beautiful thing to watch. Harvestmen, otherwise known as daddy longlegs, are arachnids, but they're in a different order than true spiders. They're in the order Apilioni. Unlike spiders, harvestmen have 1 body part, whereas true spiders have 2. They have the cephalothorax and the abdomen. So as a kid, all I could ever see were the legs on these things. I would visit my grandparents' home at Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, and they would cover a wall of their basement wall. They had like an open basement sort of situation, and we were always brushing them off. They were always in the way. So I've never seen as many here in Maine, and I often wonder if they're still as prevalent in Missouri at the Lake of the Ozarks as they were when I was a kid years ago. So thank you for spending time with me this evening. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them in the chat. If you'd like to reach out with a question, I've included my email here. I'm interested in ways in improving the presentation. This is my 2nd Zoom presentation, so I'm still pretty green at it. But you can connect with me on Instagram. I post a lot of my pictures there and love to see other people's pictures as well. So before I sign off, I just want to wish everybody a wonderful summer full of adventures and visiting your family and friends. Just continue to stay safe and have fun exploring.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Donnie. That was really a great overview, and I just loved seeing all of your photos. You're a really talented photographer on top of all the knowledge you just shared with us. So it looks like we have a comment from Linda saying, nice presentation, beautiful photos. What type of camera do you use?
So I have a Canon. That's one of the knowledgeable things that it's a Canon, it's a SLR. Sorry.
That's okay.
I can get you the type right here. Okay, it's a EOS Rebel T6i. And then I have a special lens to get the little bitty things. It's a macro lens. It's 105 millimeter. It's a Sigma lens.
Great.
But I don't use that lens for the flowers and birds and things. I just use that for the insect spiders.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the detail on some of those insects and just like all of the things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily see glancing with the naked eye. So that was really,
Right.
really neat to see.
You can really see a lot more. Bring the photo in. I do that a lot. If I can't see an insect, I'll actually take a picture of it and then blow it up when I get inside, and it's amazing to see the colors you just don't see with your naked eye.
Yeah, that wasp one, I can't remember which wasp it was, but it looked like it had almost like green and blue sequins or something dotting its back. It was pretty cool.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
I actually have a question for you. Don't know if you know or not, but every year my parents find clumps of salamander eggs in their swimming pool when they uncover it, and they always sort of fish them out and bring them to us in a bucket. And we have a little sort of man-made tiny tub landscaping pond thing that is in our backyard that gets frogs in it. And so it's like a little habitat for frogs, but we usually take the salamander eggs out of the chlorinated pool and put them into the pond. But is that, I'm just curious, like by doing that, do the frogs that live in the pond, would they eat the salamander eggs, or are different amphibians sort of territorial? Like, I'm just curious about whether we even have a good chance of them having a success rate for, making it if we're doing that for the salamander.
I think they would definitely have a better success rate there than they would in the pool, the chlorinated pool, for sure. But I'm sure there's a lot of eating going on of various species eating each other and stuff. That's just what happens. But I think that if you have a large clump, that there may be the chance that a few of them could survive.
Yeah. So they would just sort of eventually climb out of the pool when they're ready and head off into the woods. Nice.
They do stay in the pond for a little while. They have their bodies, they morph from this keel-like tail to legs and like a tadpole.
Yeah. Okay, we have some more questions in the chat box. It looks like someone wants to know what is your favorite photographic capture when you were at the right place in the right time, even if we didn't see it tonight.
Gosh, I gotta say that those turkey vultures, that was a pretty good capture. I know that there's probably got to be some more in there, but just kind of head full of these. I'm not thinking, but Yeah, it's,
I'm sure it's hard to pick. It seems like you really enjoy taking all the photos. So I think it's okay if you can't pick just one.
there were
sorry, go
some,
ahead.
I remember when I was going through the photos, there were some that weren't in the right time frame
Mhm.
because they were later in the year, and so I'm just not pulling those. I was trying to pull those up to remember which ones they were, but it's just not happening. It's kind of late in
Sure.
the day, you guys. I mean, I'm
It
up
is.
at 5 o'clock in the morning, so bedtime for me.
Well, you're impressively on your game. It's okay. We have a comment. Someone says, how are the ticks? I'm not sure if that is pertaining to Sears Island or everywhere in general, but I don't know if you've noticed a lot while you've been out and about, Donnie, in your explorations, or
Actually, this year, well, last year, hardly any. And I think that it was because it was so dry last summer. And so far this year, we've been really lucky around here, but we've heard reports from other people in Orrington who say that they have them. And we have deer through here all the time. But I did notice that one of the neighbors has a cat, an outdoor cat, that could be keeping the mice population down, because deer mice actually are the ones that, they really breed the ticks.
Mhm.
So it could be that cat is actually helping the tick population, which probably isn't helping the bird population. But
Yeah, I know from when I've been out on Sears Island that when we went out to put up the story walk that's out on the Homestead Trail right now, I was trying to take a photo of the story walk pictures that we were putting up, and there was a tick crawling on my cell phone. But then when I checked myself and my kids after, none of us had any, surprisingly. So, and it seems like most of the ones we are finding around here in Belfast, it seems like there's a lot, but they're mostly wood ticks. We've only found a few deer ticks so far, so that is a good thing, I guess. But all right, well, looks like we have some more comments about, thank you so much, enjoyed your photos and info. I don't know if anyone has any last questions they want to type in the chat box, but I think that is probably it for tonight. So thank you so much for taking the time to put this presentation together and share all this with us. And it was really informative and enjoyable. So
my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.